Each year, the City of Stirling provides support to residents to help them create a water-wise native garden on their verge. Why native gardens? Well, WA native plants not only look great and require little water and maintenance, which saves you money, but they also provide food and habitat for local wildlife, and importantly, they're built to cope with Perth's harsh weather conditions, and they're more likely to survive. Verge gardens can have a big impact on where we live. They can help beautify your streetscape and also help create a sense of place. On top of this, they help reduce the urban heat island effect and cool down your street. During this video, we'll show you all the steps you need to take to create your own beautiful Verge garden.
The verge or nature strip is the area between the edge of the road and the private property boundary. Before commencing any landscaping or earthworks, it's recommended ringing 1100 to check for any underground hazards or pipes. It's also a good idea to read the city's verge treatment guidelines to make sure that your makeover meets the requirements. Protect trees and roots during works by leaving a distance away from the tree trunk. Also, dig by hand around roots. While you can't plant a street tree yourself, you can request one through the City of Stirling. To avoid the use of harmful chemicals or expensive earth-moving costs, you can try a couple of the following methods to remove grass on a verge. Using a turf cutter or a shovel, you can dig the grass out. Another method is to smother the grass by applying a thick layer of newspaper or cardboard, then a layer of mulch or compost 5 to 10 centimetres thick. You'll eventually smother the grass, and the compost and the mulch will aid in the breakdown of the grass. Another method you can do to remove the grass is to try solarising. This is best done during summer when you can take advantage of the heat. Simply cover the grass with a layer of black plastic, and between 6 to 8 weeks, the sun will do the job and kill that grass for you. You can also consider using an organic herbicide. These are available now from most hardware stores and nurseries. To improve water retention, add and mix a native soil conditioner to each planting hole.
Let's talk about mulch. Well, mulch is essential in a water-wise garden. A thick layer of coarse mulch will retain soil moisture by preventing evaporation. It will keep the soil temperature cool to help your plants. Mulch will also provide a slow release of nutrients and organic matter into your soil, benefiting soil microbes and plant health. And as a bonus, mulch is going to help suppress weeds, making your life easier. When mulching, make sure you use a coarse mulch. This will allow water to infiltrate into the soil, but it will stop the water evaporating back out. Fine mulches tend to break down really quickly, and they also often absorb the water that is meant for your plants. Make sure you apply your mulch 5 to 10 centimetres thick to get all of the benefits. Make sure you keep the level flush with the curb or below. This is to avoid any spillover into the road or onto a footpath or even into a nearby drain. Just one last thing about mulching. You can mulch right up to the curb, but make sure you leave about a 2-metre space with no plantings. Feel free to incorporate a natural pathway through your verge garden. These can be a really alluring element for everyone to enjoy, and they can improve access. Just remember, a natural pathway can't replace that 2-metre clearance you need by the curb for pedestrian access. The material you use for your natural pathway would need to be a material that's permissible in the verge treatment guidelines.
Okay, now we've prepared all the soil, it's time to start planting. So when we think about planting trees or plants on our verge or in a garden bed, we want to think about spacing. So we don't want to space our plants too close together. We want to give at least 1 metre or 2 metres per plant. So as those plants grow and mature, they're not going to compete with each other for space, and they're not going to outshade each other. Before we start planting our plants and our tube stock here, what we want to do first is we'll fill a bucket full of a seaweed or kelp solution. That just helps give the plants a little bit of a boost before planting and make sure that the root ball's really nice and wet. So it's going to give them a really good head start. So we pop all these plants into this bucket you'll see some air bubbles start to emerge. Just leave those plants in the bucket for about 30 to 60 minutes until no more air bubbles arise. Once there's no more bubbles in the pot, that means that the entire root ball is going to be completely saturated and they're ready to plant. Remove the plants from the pot. Place them around your garden. Remember that 1 metre spacing. Think about how big the plants are going to be once they're mature and how much space they're going to take up once they're fully grown. And with the water that's left in this bucket here, we're not going to throw it out. We'll use it later to water in our plants once they've been planted. So we'll just put that to side. Okay, now we've laid out our plants, it's ready to get them in the ground. So what we want to do is just scrape back that mulch wherever you want to plant your plant. Give it a decent amount of space to work. We want to dig a hole that's at least 3 times as big as the plant. Now that we've dug the hole, at this stage you just want to have a look at our soils and see what sort of type we've got. If you do have a really sandy soil, it can be water repellent. So if you do have some clay, possibly bentonite or maybe a biochar, you can add it to the hole to help with water retention, but it's not necessary. As we know, native plants grow in a sandy environment anyway, so should be fine. At this stage, you can also add a small amount of native fertilizer. Make sure it's native, which is low P or low phosphorus. And you can just add a small handful or about a teaspoon into that hole. Then with our tube stock, generally it should come out quite easily, but if not, what we want to do is just give the tube a small squeeze, not too hard, and then tap the bottom and it should come out quite easily. And then we want to place the tube or plant into the hole. What we want to do is make sure the entire root ball is covered and none of it is exposed, but we also don't want to plant it too deep so that the plant material is covered. So we can just hold it there, backfill. Lightly pressing down, not too hard. And then what we want to do is we want to create a small well just outside where you've planted. This will help retain water, so the water will land in there and then soak down into the root system where it's needed. Once that plant has been planted, we want to push back our mulch. What we don't want to do is push the mulch too close up to the stem of that plant. It has the risk of suffocating it or damage it, or it may rot off. So where that well is, we don't want to put any mulch in there. We just want to keep the mulch around the outside of the plant. Now what you can do is you can take that water, you can pour it over onto your plants. Make sure you're watering into that well that we created. That'll ensure that water stays where it's needed. It won't run off and it will go down into the root system where it's needed most. It is a good idea to water your plants at least 1 to 2 times a week. But if the weather does have an extended hot spell of maybe 35 or 40 degrees in a 2 or 3 day run, it is important to go out there and check your plants every day and maybe give them a small drink of a litre or so just to keep them alive.
Thank you for watching. To find out what support is available to you to create your own beautiful waterwise Verge Garden, head to the city's Living Green webpage or sign up to the Living Green e-newsletter. We hope you can join the hundreds of other residents in this greening movement to help make our city more livable, cooler, greener, and of course, more waterwise.